This is a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk. Number 391.
You're listening to the 2015 TGO Challenge, sponsored by the Great Outdoors magazine, Handbag Footwear and Fjällräven. Part 3.
Well, hello again, and I am at Kinlochleven. Not quite as planned. I'm sitting in a room at the McDonald's Resort Hotel here. I left our camp spot early this morning, started walking about 7, and we hit the Highland Way, West Highland Way, in which we had to walk south, and just had the most abominable weather. Hail, wind, driving rain, everything saturated. And we decided we'd drop down to Kinlochleven for some real food. And when we got there, we realised we were half a day ahead of schedule. Now, I'm booked into the bunkhouse in Dalwhinnie in a couple of nights' time. Humphrey isn't. And he said to me, well, you've either got half a day here or half a day in Dalwhinnie. Well, if anybody's ever been to Dalwhinnie, they will know that it's very difficult to spend an hour wandering around it, let half a day. So good was our food and the hospitality in the hotel, that I thought, sod it, and blew 60 quid on a hotel room, which will allow me to get everything dry, because everything is completely saturated. Even these dry bags inside of my rucksack are wet. So I'm here. I shall no doubt be spending the evening in the company of a lot of lovely West Highland Way walkers, and I'll talk to you about that then. Cheerio.
It's the fourth morning, Monday morning, and we've left the Great Glen Hostel by Laggan, and we're now on the Great Glen Way. The forecast today was showers, basically slightly inclement, a bit of rain, sunshine and showers, that type of thing. But sadly, within half an hour of leaving the hostel, the rain has been pretty solid and persistent ever since, which is a bit depressing. It's interestingly, walking down the Great Glen Way after an hour or so, bumped into Colin Ibbotson coming the opposite direction. Had a brief chat with him and then catch up. He looked in fine form and very happy, and off to finish the Great Glen and head up to do the Cape Wrath Trail. So I hope the weather holds for him on that particular route. In a bit of a dilemma today. Everybody's a bit wary of the weather from yesterday being pretty atrocious in the afternoon. So we're sticking to our route to go up Glen Buck and then on to the Corrieric. And then once we get on top of the Corrieric, make a decision whether to continue across the Monolea or turn right, head down to Melgov to find that nice camping spot we did last time, which was somewhere between Melgov, Bothy and Garver Bridge. And then, unfortunately, it'll be a bit more road walking to get into Aviemore. So the dilemma is whether you take a risk with the top of the Monolea, which could be very, very boggy if the rain is persistent, as it has been yesterday, today and possibly tomorrow, or play safe but be a bit more foot weary walking down the road. And of course, as Rose pointed out this morning, one of the dilemmas is, do you come on the challenge to walk down the road or walk over the hills? So it's a difficult one we've got to deal with as the day draws on, I guess. But as you can hear from the swish of the waterproofs, the rain is still fairly persistent, and I'm told there's a cafe or something at Glen Buck, so we hope to get there, draw ourselves out a bit, and perhaps have a reasonable brunch to set us up for the rest of the day.
The Great Outdoors Challenge is an annual self-supported walking event across the Highlands of Scotland, west coast to east coast. First held in 1980, it's a non-competitive test of backcountry skills, navigation and stamina. The challenge is held every May and is sponsored by the Great Outdoors, the Walkers magazine, and supported by specialist outdoor footwear company Handvag in association with Fjällräven. Every challenger starts their hike by signing out from one of around a dozen locations on the west coast, strung between Torridon in the north and Ardrishaig in the south. And your journey will end when you reach the eastern seaboard between Fraserburgh and Arbroath. Between those chosen points in the months prior, you'll plan your own routes, which will be checked by experienced vetters. You can plan a high or low-level route, or one that blends both. That flexibility, combined with the vast and varied geographical area available, is one of the challenge's unique attractions. Many challengers return year after year. Some plan entirely new routes, some repeat favourite sections. You're free to choose. The challenge is a backpacking event. You'll need to carry everything on your back, including food and shelter, but it's up to you whether you camp all the way across or use a mixture of camping, hostels and B&Bs. The extraordinary hospitality offered by many establishments has become legendary over the event's 30-plus years. The challenge demands a good level of competence in navigation, survival techniques, campcraft and general hillcraft. It's also renowned for its sociability and camaraderie, and you'll always find fellow challengers willing to help in any way they can. The event is restricted to 300 participants, and entry forms can be found in the October issue of the Great Outdoors magazine every year.
Well, we just made it to the evening of day 4. It's just gone 7 o'clock, and we've just had a sumptuous meal of pasta sauce and ratatouille. It was super. And we're currently staying at Stravager's Lodge in St Augustus. It's part of our foul weather route. We decided after getting to the end of the Glen Way at Laggan Locks.
At the swing bridge, wasn't it?
At the swing bridge, yeah. We had to make a decision there, and we were all feeling fairly low. We were soaking wet, tired. It was a long walk, that, wasn't it?
Well, I didn't think it was too bad.
No?
But I was busy chatting to Lee and Tony. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was that they've laid hardcore underfoot, and they're going to be laying, I think, a fine gravel over the top. So it was sort of hardcore we were walking on, which was a bit tiring. But anyway, thanks to the weather conditions, once again, which were gusty and really, really gusty and heavy rain, we got to the swing bridge. And then just up the road from the swing bridge, about half a mile, in fact, there is the Thistle Cafe. And we had a fantastic welcome when we got in there. We were 4 drowned rats. Came through the door, and the lady welcomed us in. She was an English lady, wasn't she?
She couldn't do enough for us, actually. She was great. She
Yeah.
said, put all your wet gear here, and got tea and toast on straight away. And
Yeah.
She's lovely.
And we had piping hot breakfast and piles of tea and piles of toast, which lifted the spirits no end. And, of course, the place had a good half dozen other challengers in there, the names of which I can't recall. I haven't met them before, certainly. And so we stayed there for half an hour or so. The worst of the weather sort of blew over, and we all decided that actually with those weather conditions, it would be better to take the foul weather route because it would be pretty foul on the top.
We were going up Glen Buck, weren't we? And it would have been similar, from what I understand, talking to Tony, to the conditions we came over the top on yesterday. That is taking a bearing and no track, so it's across heather and bog. yeah,
and also with the amount of rain that had been, as Lee pointed out, all the small burns would have been in torrent, which was understandable because they certainly, all the small little burns at the level we were at were torrential, weren't they?
Yeah.
So we had the tortuous walk down the Grand Caledonian Canal, that's it, which we've done several times, and every time it's been horrible with a real bitter wind behind your neck. But actually, today...
That wasn't too bad, was it? Considering there were real downpours, so every time Tony took his waterproof trousers off, you can guarantee it would absolutely hammer down.
So we made it to St Augustus, called into the lock-in for a beer. And we then had to make the decision whether we would camp or we would bunkhouse.
Well, if we could get a bunkhouse, that was the decision. If we could get a place in a bunkhouse, we would opt for a bunkhouse.
We'd take it.
Just because it's been so inclement and
dry everything off, really.
Yeah, we'd only just got everything sort of semi-dry.
So we actually got the last room in this lodge, Stravager's lodge. And naturally, as we are sitting here, as you can hear the doors banging, the place is heaving with challengers, and there's a good dozen or so people outside on the campsite using the facilities. So all's good, and of course everybody's going to head back probably down to the lock-in for a beer tonight, or all the bothy in, one of the two. Tomorrow morning then we're going to be up as early as we can do because it's going to be a long day tomorrow, and it looks like there's some serious climb actually. So we're going to head up Glendo, up to the dam, and pick up after the dam onto our original course, which would have been across the top of the Corrie Eric. And looking at the contours, it looks, as I say, that it's going to be a very similar route to the Corrie Eric. But again, we're told because of the actual dam work, it could be fairly good going underfoot. So even though it's steep, it could be fairly easy to traverse. I think that's about it for today, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I think so. Disappointing that we had another wet day, really. I mean, torrentially wet day. In fact, we went and bought some waterproofing because my jacket wetted through where my rucksack was on the shoulder straps.
But every time you go to the pub, that's all you hear people talking about. All the Paramos have wetted through, all the other events and Gore-Tex jackets have all wetted through. It's just been drenched. But not to worry, hopefully we'll on the up. Weather forecast is a bit more of the same tomorrow, and then getting a bit brighter the next couple of days, and that's as much as we need to know to get us into Aviemore. So we will pick up with this a bit later on.
You're listening to The Outdoor Station, the home of UK-based audio and video podcasts for lovers of the great outdoors everywhere.
That's to give you an idea of what it's like Wednesday morning. We've got the wind whistling through the trees, the cloud is low. Forecast is heavy rain squalls and gusts, but brightening up this afternoon. So we've left Lee and Tony at the campsite. They're going to go up the Corrie Eric, and we are going up Glendo, up to the reservoir, and then hoping to pick the track up to Stonelarig Lodge that way. But you get an idea of what it's like listening to the sound of that wind through these trees. You're feeling a bit brighter this morning, though?
Yeah, no, it's really good to get that last room in the bunkhouse, have a dry night. Felt a bit bad there looking out on the sodden campsite, I have to say.
Oh, well, there's a certain amount of satisfaction to have that one over on Lee and Tony, wasn't it, surely?
Well, that's true.
Anyway, we're going to head off now, and we'll try and pick up a bit later on. It looks like a fairly steep path, but we will enjoy tackling it as we can.
Since my first TGO challenge way back in 2004, I've always wanted to walk out of St Augustus via Glendo. On the map, it seems to be the more direct and potentially attractive route compared to repeating the option of General Wade's Road once again over the Corrie Eric. However, dam construction has been going on in Glendow for some 10 years, and so it made the area one to be avoided until it was completed in the last 12 months. The walk out of St Augustus along the road before getting to the main gates was a few kilometres, and during that time we met David Wishart and Graham Weaver, who were also treading the same path to Stonelarig Lodge. The weather was miserable. A strong, exceedingly cold, biting wind, combined with random gusts and flurries of snow, had us all weaving along the track from side to side like a human pinball. The going underfoot was good though, and the fine grit surface made for a pleasant change from the choriaric cobbles, which can easily tire your feet. An hour or so along the track, there's a small tin bothy with a couple of benches inside and not much else. However, it was certainly a relief to get out of the weather, take off the packs, and tuck into some bars of chocolate to cheer ourselves up. In there we found Graham and Marion Dunsire. As it happened, Graham had been one of the vetters on this year's challenge, and he had in actual fact vetted the route of the other Graham we had entered with. Naturally, the conversation turned to the amount of work involved, which is undertaken by the volunteer TGO challenge vetters, and so I asked him for his overall impression of the routes he had to review this year.
It was frustration, I would say.
Yeah?
Yeah, because a lot of the routes were lacking greatly in detail.
All right.
But fellow vetters have said a lot of them were a lot better than normal. So,
And what are you expecting when you say detail?
I expect more detail on your daily planning, on your daily route. Not just point A to point B.
Right, via...
Some
X and
things
Y.
didn't even have via.
Oh, I see, right, okay, so you just have start point and end point.
Yes.
Everybody else has gone very quiet in this hut all of a sudden.
Too busy eating.
Can I have some tablets, please?
I thought it was quite interesting, sort of your view on the mapping though, on the distances and the differences. That's worth it. Aye. That's worth a mention.
There was a huge difference in mapping software. Ascent.
Right.
Huge difference.
And do you actually mean on the actual software itself or on people's interpretation of it?
I assume it's the software.
Really? And is there a good, better, best then in the software?
In my experience, Anquet and Memory Map are pretty accurate,
Really?
but the rest of them seem to be way, way low.
But surely they take all their data from the same place, don't they?
I don't know. It's maybe, you know, when you plot your map and you change it to route and then you click on ascent figures, it must do something inside the computer. Don't ask me, I'm not very techie minded, but it must do something inside the computer.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean seriously, half the ascent from what it should be.
Wow. That's interesting to know. Well, we're using...
And the reason I know it is the software is because when I do it, I double checked it with somebody with Anquet.
Right.
I then asked them to resubmit their figures, and they came back the same.
Okay.
So there is a problem with the mapping software somewhere.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
But all in all, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the vetting.
Did you really?
Yes. It winds away some long, dark winter nights.
And so you've had no abuse then?
I was just thinking.
Maybe you should do an interview of people that are vetted.
Yeah.
Join you for the rest of the challenge.
I can go and stand outside.
When you get to the future, like, just give us a call. Do you know what? He's vetting again. Come and stay with us in the window.
So how many routes do you have to vet? I mean, what's your quota?
I vetted 12 this year, but some of them were vetting over 20.
Wow. That must be quite hard.
I reckon it's about 8 hours a route.
Yeah.
By the time you get and look at it, you know, I'll spend maybe half an hour reading through it, and then you plot it on your own software, and then you look at all the discrepancies that you've got with, and then you write your notes. I mean, it can be up to 8 hours.
Wow.
And as part of that, do you read the background history of the people that are applying as well, or does that come afterwards?
That was one of my problems, is judging people's experience. Because if they've only done maybe 1 or 2 challenges, and they're their first challenge, it's difficult to know what they're like. The first 2 routes I got were people I knew, and I thought, well, that's fine. I know their experience. I know what they can do, and they were relatively easy. The biggest problem was writing up notes for people you don't know what their experience is. And latterly, Sue and Ali sent me through the experience sheets, because you know how the first timers fill out an experience sheet, and they sent them through, which was very helpful. But I would say that knowing people's experience is difficult. If you applied, for example, I know you've done 5, 6...
Yeah, the rest 8.
7, 8.
Yeah.
I know you're quite experienced, you'll know your way across Scotland. You know what it entails, but some people are, especially the older people.
He said, looking round the hut.
Present company excluded, of course.
Don't take it personally. I'll look after you later.
Because some of them are putting in some high... And what I said when I came in, you know, it's very... It's great just sitting there in the middle of winter, writing your route, thinking, you know, it's going to be great, it's going to be sunny, and we'll stop here, and we'll do this, and we'll do... And this is reality.
Yeah.
And trying to get through to people that this is reality, because when you get their experience sheet, they've done 3 days in the South Downs, or they've done, you know, something in some coastal path or something like that. But this is completely different, in my opinion. But
Well, we were saying on the way up, actually, that the challenge, in some respects, isn't the distance. The challenge is dealing with the weather and the conditions and having to deal with it on a daily basis as opposed to just day walks sort of thing. Anyway, that's one from the vetter. Now, from the vettee...
I'm not sure. I was really impressed. Like,
be truthful.
No, I was really impressed. Like, I mean, with the level of information I got, and how accurate it was.
Yeah.
And it was written in such a way that it was helpful. That it because I know that one year I had my vetters comments back, and you could just feel that it was more like it wasn't so helpful. Whereas it was written by Graham really in a helpful way. It was nicely put.
And that could do better didn't put you off at all.
No, not at all. No.
It's very difficult to portray in words, so as you're not like domineering, like the headmaster saying, "Don't do this, don't do that, do that, do," and it's very difficult to do that. You know, when you're actually sitting there thinking, "How can I write this?" Because I've said to you on a few occasions, this is going to be a difficult note to write up because you just don't know how to. I remember I put in one of them. Your ascent figures are severely out, and I got it back from Sue and Ali and said severely's a bit too much. Just tone it down a bit, please. And it is difficult to know how to know what to say. Say something.
I don't have a view.
A lovely view. Look at it.
No, but it was very, very positive.
Well, I'm glad you thought that.
And,
I'm really pleased that you thought that.
And it was nicely put, and and I was really impressed with it. To be fair, and thought that's fine. That's what it should be. And
Well, it's got to be supportive, encouraging, and guiding, isn't it? Really,
exactly.
Certainly, I've had a few over the years, and it almost sounded sarcastic in places. But it can be, of course, the mood you're in when you read it.
Yeah.
As much as
And the mood the vetter's in when he writes it.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly.
And if he's had a crappy route, then he's not in a very good mood.
No. And so, what did you do as a vetter's widow then?
I just carried on doing my knitting. I chilled out in my yoga. That's what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if this is a vetter's route, we were obviously on a good one, but you didn't plan the weather.
I've always... this is our 9th, and I've always tried to do routes we've never done before. And up to now, I reckon 10% of all our routes has been ground we've covered previously.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to... And the same old... Number 10 next year will be exactly the same. We'll just try and... I mean, we've never done the Corriaric. We've never done Tarside to Edzell, Northwater Bridge and Cyrus. We've never done that. We've never... There's lots of places.
So who vets your route?
JD, John Donohoe. But again, he just.
How many challenges has he done?
Oh, I think he's done a few.
I just wondered who better the vetters, that was all.
Just any of them. You know, they just come in as a route. The vetters will come in as a route, and they do get properly vetted as well. And
so do the vetters have a party afterwards then, and sit down and slag everybody off?
We have a meeting on Friday, of which we have an agenda already.
Oh.
But it's a very casual thing, and it's really only to ensure the safety of the people that are on the challenge, and to probably cover our own backs as well.
Well, I suppose it's getting more and more important these days, isn't it?
Yes, for all these liable cases and all that, you have to make sure that you're fully covered and
accountable.
Is there ever a case where a route is vetted which is completely unsuitable and the applicant won't change, and so has that ever happened?
I don't know if they won't change. There's certainly been routes that have been completely unacceptable. For what circumstance I don't know, but I know that they do get sent back to the people and asked to resubmit a better route.
Yeah, start again.
And I think they maybe get 3 chances, and then they get told politely that you've not really grasped the whole concept of this. I think that's the case.
3 strikes and you're out, sort of thing.
I think so.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you can't come back next year and do it. It just means that you've not really grasped what's going on with the whole concept of writing a route here and crossing Scotland. So.
I think it's admirable that it's all voluntary, though, your vetting. You put in all those hours voluntary.
Well, I
really good.
enjoy it. I do enjoy it. Thank you. But I do enjoy it. It was just last year when I heard that we had a wee problem last year at the end, so we didn't get in till the Friday. So we didn't know that Sue and Ali were leaving. That John Manning was leaving and Sue and Ali were taking over. So just then I said, look, because I knew they were vetters, and I knew if they were coordinating, they'd have enough to do without vetting. So I said, if you're needing a hand, just... And before I knew it, I had Ali's route through, and... Oh, God, here we go. So Ali's was my first route.
That's good.
And that was fine. They broke me in gently with that one.
And so is there much politics in the actual organisation of this thing?
No.
Have you seen? Have you seen much behind the scenes stuff?
No. I know when we were up at Newton Moor 2 or 3 weeks before... No, the week before the final details came out, and Sue was having to proofread it. And it's just an absolute nightmare, just proofreading something. Because you have to sit down and be totally focused on it, I suppose, and just, okay, read it. And... So they spend an awful lot of time coordinating the things that we don't see, behind the scene things. And when you think back to how hard it must have been for Roger to do it on his own. I don't know how much Patricia helped him.
We appreciate how hard he did actually work, because it immense amount of work.
But I wonder if over the years, I mean, it'd be nice to have a conversation with him, really, but to ask the question, how much the expectations have changed from the people that are doing it, as well as from an organising point of view. Because, as you say, you've got to be careful of litigation these days. But the expectations of the people that do it, I've got to feel it was much more of a social club almost when it first started, even though it was the ultimate challenge.
I think it still is to a certain extent. I mean, last night we were sitting there in the pub, and
disgraceful.
We're going on to.
Disgraceful.
There's an impromptu party at Charlie Beat tonight, and then there's Calatar, and then there's the season. It can be what you want, and that's the good thing about the challenge. It can be exactly what you want it to be. It's not, it's not. This is what happens, and that's it. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do. Just do whatever you want.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, it is a 2-week holiday. We were saying on the way up. I mean, literally, they can't. I can't think of any other event in the world that's actually the same. That isn't competitive, that's contained, that allows you flexibility of routes. Even the Falraven Classic's a set route, and you sort of start off at a set time and finish in a set place, and they do the food for you and whatever. The adventure races, I suppose, but they're purely competitive over 2 days. And then you've got the American sort of long trips like the PCT. I think it's the PCT kick-off party I was talking about earlier on. where I think they all gather together when the pass is first open. But apart from that, can't think of anything I've heard of that's similar to this. So for all its foibles, it's actually got to be celebrated.
They say it's the biggest backpacking event in the world.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know if that's true or not, but the beauty is you can do what you want.
Mm.
And plus, it's the people you meet, isn't it? Like, because it's such a diverse group of people who you normally wouldn't probably meet.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? When it's first set up, and it was described as being promoting fellowship amongst backpackers, and yet generally, as a group of people, backpackers are solitary individuals.
Yeah,
I'd rather be stuck in a tent on top of a hill somewhere.
On the campsite, there were several pictures reserved for the Loners Club.
That's right. Yeah.
It's like the quiet carriage on the train.
Hello, well, it's nearly 9 o'clock on Tuesday evening, and today's been a long, hard, wet and windy day, which is one of the reasons why you haven't had a report from me during the day itself. I set off from Kinlochleven at about 7 o'clock and walked out of the village up to the dam, and then followed a very wet path across Rannoch Moor and round into Kieran or Kieran Bothy. Now, that wasn't too bad a journey, although it was pretty slippy. Every path is a river. There's mud everywhere. But actually, as I sat in the bothy having my lunch, the sun came out, and when I started going again for about the next, half an hour or so, I was walking in sunshine. And as I climbed towards Loch Teague, the path just got wetter and wetter, and the wind kept driving on. And eventually, when I was descending the path to the shore of Loch Teague, I don't think I've ever seen so much mud anywhere. I was slipping and sliding all over the place. I felt as if I was skiing down rubber poles at some times, and on a few occasions I found myself flying and being dumped unceremoniously in the mud. Anyway, from there I took the long walk round to Loch Ossian. I was thinking about maybe camping near the train line, but there's a big construction project going on there now. Very unpleasant. Anyway, so I carried on down past the Loch Ossian Youth Hostel and walked on again into the forest until I found a nice little clearing with a bit of shelter from the still very strong winds. So it's been a very long and very tiring day. And the interesting thing is I haven't seen a soul, apart from a woman in Kinlochleven who I asked if I was taking the right path out of the village. That's been it all day. I've been completely on my own. So there you go. That's Tuesday. Hopefully Wednesday will be a bit better day. It's dry at the moment, although this wind is still persevering. But I've got a bit of shelter from the trees here now. But after the first 2 days, the euphoria of the first 2 days, really, I mean, we are now really into some really grotty weather. And if you ever wonder why they call this the TGO Challenge, well, walking for 12 hours or so in these conditions, and it feels like a challenge to me anyway. Anyway, that's it. I'm just about to have some food, and I'll speak to you tomorrow, hopefully in a better mood, with better weather, and in better spirits.
Well, it's been a long day's walk today from St Augustus. Glendo was interesting. It was challenging in the sense that it was a long, hard walk, and I should be interested to see when I get back and compare the actual length of the Corrie Eric
pass to Glen Buck to see actually which one is longer. I would say they were both of a very, very similar nature, but the weather has been, the forecast was gusty, similar to yesterday, changeable but brightening up this afternoon. So it was certainly a very, very cold, blustery, head down, waterproofs on walk to the top, to the reservoir, where we had to walk through a few 10-foot channels of snow to re-establish the hardcore track at the very, very top. And obviously the wind was whipping across the reservoir as we tried to find the path, or get out of the wind initially, to look for the path to Stonelarig Lodge. The sort of group of people that we were with all sort of split off and went in different directions. We chose a route which had a hardcore path down to it for a certain length of time, and then picked up the footpath which crossed over a couple of bridges before making our way down to Stonelarig. And although I've been here before, I just can't remember it at all, apart from the actual building. The valley has been devastated by landfall and stones are being washed away with the water. You can see the amount of water that must be going down there. And as you can tell, we are inside the tent at the moment. We are exhausted, having had a good day. Left some people camping down at the lodge, which to us struck us as being a bit of a windy spot. So we headed up, I think it's Glen Markey. We've headed up for about a kilometre or so looking for a pitch and found a lovely spot. However, the wind has decided to suddenly pick up again. And as you can hear, it's giving us pause for thought whether we can actually stay here tonight or take the tent back down again and press on to try and find a calmer spot. It is pretty atrocious. It's strong enough that we can't cook. I have got all the pegs held down with extremely large stones, and I'm apprehensive about what to do next, if I was being completely honest. Rosie's snuggled up next to me in the tent, hoping that it'll all go away. Make the nasty wind go away.
I was going to say, the sun's actually shining. The wind stopped. It would be lovely.
It'd be
but
perfect.
It's just, at least the rain stopped. We've had torrential rain, which you didn't mention, most of the day. Really cold stuff. So, Robin Evans is just further up the valley from us. He walked up from Stoney Lodge, also looking for another campsite. And he's just a couple of little bays along from us. He's got a scarp tent, so I think he was fairly confident with that.
Yeah, the shelter that we've got is the Power Lizard 2/3 person. I think I mentioned that before. And although I've had the smaller tent out in weather like this, I'm just a little apprehensive of the way the material's flapping with the bigger version. Maybe it's just inexperience of actually using this tent in these conditions, which it probably is, really. You have to have a night like this before you build confidence in your shelter sometimes. But as you can see, as you can hear, we haven't unpacked anything. We are just lying here wondering if there's a better option. And so I thought I'd do a bit of recording to share my thoughts.
If anyone knows of a travel lodge nearby.
And a pizza hut. Yes, a nice pizza and a few beers would be lovely at this moment in time. But
I was really looking forward to our tea too at the moment. It's just
it's too dangerous to cook it, which is a real shame because I'm starving. Right, we'll carry on wandering and let you know what we do later on.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear more from our extensive free library, please visit the website at theoutdoorstation.co.uk. Join us next time as the journey across Scotland continues on the TGO Challenge.